Hello, everyone. I'm Mark Yaxley, General Manager of Strategic Wealth Preservation. I'll be your host for today's webinar focused on investing in precious metals, specifically physical gold and silver. I think it's a really exciting time to be delivering this webinar, especially given everything that's happened with the COVID virus and the effects that it's had on the global economy. I think the role of precious metals is very significant right now. So I'm really excited to share all of my knowledge with you. Today's webinar is going to last about 30 minutes and it'll be followed by an open-ended question and answer period. So I'll be sticking around personally to answer any questions that you might have. Now, the webinar is recorded, so that means you can rewatch it later on. You can also share it with friends and family who might be interested in this topic. I am here with you live on the YouTube chat, so if you have a question that you want to type into the chat function, I will answer that question personally, either during the webinar or afterwards. Of course, if you think of something later that you wanted to ask, but didn't get the chance to, you can always email us at info@swpcayman.com. The webinar is divided into 3 modules. Each module will last about 5 to 7 minutes. The first module, I'll be providing you with an overview of physical gold and silver products, and we'll be looking at some market data for the last 20 years surrounding gold so that you get a sense of how gold has performed and what kind of role it can play in your portfolio. In the second module, I'm going to tell you more about SWP and our different products and services as they relate to buying, selling, and storing precious metals. And in the third module, we're going to dive into the nuts and bolts of conducting a transaction, whether it be buying precious metals, storing or safekeeping your precious metals, and eventually liquidating your precious metals. Again, for those of you who are just joining us, this is a recorded webinar, so you can always rewatch the introduction later on. I also recommend that you check out the other educational videos on our YouTube channel focused on precious metals. We have an entire series called Inside the Vault. There's 16 episodes, a lot of good information in there that will really help bolster the topics that we cover today. So we have a lot to talk about. Let's get started. I'm going to switch over to a slideshow view now, and I'll catch up with you in a little bit. Enjoy. So to begin, I'd like to start by giving you some very basic information about physical gold and silver. Now, for those of you who have previously invested in precious metals, these first 2 slides might seem a little bit repetitive, but bear with me. I want to set kind of the foundation for everyone so that they have a better understanding as we progress through the webinar. And for those of you who have invested previously, you might learn a thing or two. So just stick with me for a few minutes. So on this first slide, on the left-hand side, we have a 1-ounce gold coin, and on the right-hand side, we have a 100-ounce silver bar. These are both examples of what we call investment-grade bullion or investment-grade precious metals. I wanted to feature them side by side so that you had a visual of what physical metal actually looks like. Most people have seen coins before because someone in their life might have had a coin collection, but I wanted to throw the bar in there as well so that you're aware that different formats and different sizes of bars do exist as well. I also want to show you a little bit about these different products. You'll notice the bottom left of the gold coin, it tells us what type of metal this is. Now that might sound really, straightforward. Gold is yellow and we can assume that's right. But when you get into silver and some of the other precious metals like platinum, palladium, and rhodium, they all kind of look the same. So it's important that the manufacturer clearly stamps or identifies what type of precious metal the product actually contains. Secondly, stamped on this coin is the weight or the quantity. In this case, the coin weighs 1 troy ounce, 1 ounce of pure gold. So we've already learned just by looking at the coin a few basic things about it. And the story is always stamped on these products by the producers so that we can easily identify what they are. On the right-hand side now, we've got the mint's hallmark. So if you have a good set of eyes, you can probably see that what that hallmark says is Royal Canadian Mint, which is Canada's national mint. And they're the ones who refined and produced this pure silver bar. Speaking of purity, we also have an indicator on the bar here that it is 4 nines pure, which means it's 99.9% pure. You know, in common kind of jeweler speak, you'd call that 24 karat, but in the investment world, we tend to use decimal points to identify how pure something is. And the norm when you're talking about investment grade gold and silver is that it will be either 3 nines or 4 nines pure. And lastly, you'll notice on this bar, it also has a unique serial number. This isn't typical for coins. The coins do not have serial numbers. They all basically look identical, but with the bars, they tend to have unique serial numbers. It helps us identify which bar is which and can tell us a little bit more about where it was produced and when it was produced. Moving on to the next slide, I just want to give you an idea of how the price works. Now we're going to go into quite a bit of detail about pricing products later on in the webinar and when you're buying and selling, what that'll cost you. But for now, I just want to clarify that when you see the price of gold or silver on a ticker or on the evening news or in the newspaper, the amount of gold or silver that price is referring to is 1 ounce. The two products below the price ticker are 1 ounce coins. On the left, you've got a 1 ounce silver coin, and on the right, you've got a 1 ounce gold coin. So I just wanted to clear up in your minds when you see that price, the actual amount of gold or silver that they're referring to. And we'll come back to pricing a little bit later on. Now, to give you a visual of how large one of those coins is, that's a picture of me holding a 1 ounce gold coin in my hand. It's, you know, relatively small, not a whole lot larger than, say, the size of a quarter. So it gives you a sense of how much wealth or value can be transported in a relatively small product, especially when it comes to gold. Now, shifting gears a little bit, now that I've given you a little bit of information about what the physical products look like, the different features that they have on them, and also when we see the price of gold, how much gold does it relate to? It relates to 1 ounce of pure gold. Now, I've brought up here the 20-year gold chart. This chart starts back in the year 2000. And I wanted to just give you a general overview of how the price of gold has performed over the last 20 years. And, you know, it's a pretty good looking chart. Gold has done well since the turn of the millennium. And, you know, you're looking at a return of over 500%. The price of gold starting at $283 back on January 1st, 2000. And at the time that I recorded this webinar, it was trading at $1,732 US per ounce. So it's been quite an interesting ride. You see some peaks and valleys there, especially during the financial crisis periods, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. The next chart that I have here is the 5-year gold chart. So this narrows our time horizon a little bit, brings it into perspective over the last couple of years and what we've experienced in the global economy. And it's been decent. You know, gold has risen or returned about 44% over the last 5 years. So if you average that out, it's about 9% a year return. You see that it's done particularly well in the last 12 to 18 months. And I'm going to bring now the 1-year chart up so that you can see how it's done in the last 365 days. Gold has been doing particularly well, rising over 35% over the last year. And really the reason for that is because central banks, the ETFs, the electronically traded funds, and retail investors like you and I really started to sense that there was some risk in the marketplace, that, you know, the global economy was more fragile, and especially more recently with what we've been experiencing with the COVID virus and all of the impacts that that's had on the economy, the price of gold has really started to appreciate rather quickly. Now, of course, you know, looking at those first 3 charts, you'd say to yourself, well, if I invest in gold, there's a pretty fair chance that I'm going to see a good return, or I'm going to see a decent return. And that's true. gold does tend to appreciate in value over time. It's one of those assets that, tends to really store or preserve its value very, very well. But the slide that I'm showing you right now, if you notice the period of time between the two green bars, that was the last financial crisis, started in 2008 and carried on through 2012 and into 2013 before the economy really started to recover. And you'll see that gold appreciated very, very strongly during that period of time. And that's really what gold's primary role is in a portfolio. Is not designed to necessarily give you a return on investment year after year, but instead it's designed to preserve wealth, because during this period of time between those two green bars, most people during that crisis time lost between 30 or 40% of their net worth, either in the stock market or during the housing crisis or the housing bubble, the house bubble that burst in the United States and in other markets around the world. And during that time, gold actually rose in value about 140%. So those people who held precious metals, before the crisis began or bought them as the crisis progressed, had a hedge against their losses in the equity markets, in the housing bubble or other asset classes that weren't performing very well during the financial crisis. And I just wanted to emphasize really the importance and the greatest value that gold will bring in your portfolio is during a crisis period. And that's not unlike what we are facing now. So I've brought back the 1-year chart. Look, there's a lot of bad information or bad news out there right now. If you're looking at the economy, I mean, the stock market is still holding its own, but there's a lot of money being, injected into that market, and the earnings of some of the companies are likely to be very disappointing in the coming months. And I think you're starting to really see that risk priced into or reflected in the gold price. So my personal belief, and the belief of a lot of people that I follow and respect, is that we have entered a new financial crisis period. We're probably about 6 months into it. It was likely to happen anyways, but the COVID virus has triggered that crisis period. And now we're starting to see, as a result, the price of gold again doing what it does best, preserving wealth, preserving value during difficult times. Now, people often ask me, part of my role with SWP, what is the price of gold going to do? Personally, I'm not an analyst. I spend a lot of my time focused on helping our clients buy and sell precious metals, store their precious metals, move their precious metals around the world. But I wanted to highlight what other people are saying about precious metals, some of the leaders in the financial services space. Credit Suisse Bank, which is one of the largest financial institutions in Europe, made a prediction back on May 20th that they see gold breaking through the old highs of 1921 US dollars and then moving on past 2000 and close to 2,100 US dollars. Now, that sentiment is also carried forward by others like Jeffrey Curry, who's head of commodities at Goldman Sachs, really likes gold right now. And then you have two major financial institutions who, for the record, don't tend to be very pro-gold. It's only during these periods of time that you really start seeing headlines like this. Wells Fargo put out its predictions, rather conservative at 1,800 to 1,900 per ounce. I mean, you're hearing that a lot right now in the media in our industry. I think that's a very conservative number personally. And then Bank of America came out and said, well, you know what, forget 1,800, 1,900. We're looking at $3,000 gold by the end of 2021. So whether or not these particular people or their analysts are correct in where they think the price will go this year and into 2021 is not so important. What's most important is the trend and the indicators and the sentiment in the marketplace that all of these financial institutions are coming out right now and they're pro-gold, they're bullish on gold. That's generally a very, very good indicator for the precious metals market. That wraps up the first module. I hope that you found the information helpful and that it sets the tone for the remainder of today's webinar. Remember, I'm here in the live chat to answer any questions you might have. You can always rewatch this webinar later on our YouTube channel. And again, I recommend you check out our educational video series, Inside the Vault, to further your understanding on some of the things that we're going to cover today. We're going to jump right into the second module of the webinar now. I'm going to be giving you some information about SWP's products and services. I'm going to start off with a brief video and then come back with some slides.
SWP is a fully integrated precious metals dealer and secure storage facility. So what that means is we not only keep our clients' assets safe, we also provide them with a liquid two-way market in the vault where they can buy and sell physical precious metals directly with SWP. That means bars and coins ranging from 1 ounce all the way up to 1,000-ounce silver bars. So when we designed SWP, we really wanted to take our clients' experience in mind. There are a lot of great facilities out there, but they're not very client-centric. What made it easier for us is that we didn't reinvent the wheel with SWP. What we did is we studied other vaults from around the world. We took the best practices and best designs from each vault. We applied that to our own plans. We disclose exactly where we're located to our clients. We invite them and encourage them to come to the Cayman Islands, visit the facility, do a self-audit. It's really important that the clients feel like they have access to their personal property and that it's not locked away in a place where they can never touch or see. We offer different types of storage. You've got the typical secure segregated storage, which is basically an industrial bin, which can hold about 70 pounds of metal. And most of our clients end up in those industrial bins. And those are sealed, they have their own unique identifier on them. Another option is safe deposit box, which some people prefer because they have a key in hand. So basically nobody can enter their box without them being present to do so. We also have private safes inside the vault. It's another way of segregating the client's assets. So the Cayman Islands is a relatively new jurisdiction in terms of storage for precious metals. The reason why it's been so successful so far with American investors, Canadian investors, and Latin American investors is, first of all, the proximity to those markets. People traditionally were storing their precious metals in Switzerland and in Singapore and in Hong Kong, and those are all good jurisdictions, but they're really far from their homes. So if they ever wanted to visit their precious metals, it was difficult for them to get there. Also, you had time difference issues, language issues. Cayman Islands is in the same time zone as Texas. English-speaking country, US dollars are accepted. It's a 1-hour flight from Miami, 3-hour flight from New York. So it's really easy to get here, and I think people appreciate that, and they can come down for a weekend and visit their precious metals. Another reason that people like to store assets with us in the Cayman Islands is that SWP as a non-financial institution has no wealth reporting requirements either to the local government or tax authority or any foreign government or tax authority. Their assets, their holdings remain completely private and confidential at all times.
I hope that you enjoyed that brief video about SWP's products and services. I think it's particularly helpful that you're able to visualize not only the different products, the gold and silver products, but also how the material is handled once it comes into our facility, and also eventually how the precious metals is stored so it's fully segregated from assets belonging to other clients. I think those visual cues are really helpful in giving you an understanding of the products and services, and also a certain comfort level that the material is being handled very professionally and safe kept at very high levels. I wanted to take a few moments just to give you a little bit more information about SWP. If you are considering an investment with us, it's important that you feel comfortable with the company and knowing who we are. Most people refer to us as SWP because strategic wealth preservation is quite a mouthful. We were founded back in 2014, and we took our first deposit of precious metals into the facility on June 15th of 2015, a day that I'll always remember fondly. I think one of the reasons why SWP has done so well so quickly is really because we're a very focused company. We only have 3 basic business activities, and that's selling, storing, and buying back precious metals. So we're really a fully integrated one-stop shop for our clients. Not only do we help them acquire the precious metals to start their investment, we also safekeep those precious metals for them during the lifetime of the investment, and ultimately when it comes time to liquidate, we also guarantee to buy back those precious metals from our clients. One of the other things that sets us apart from our competitors or other retailers, especially in the space, is that we own and operate our own storage facility. So not only can you buy gold and silver from SWP, and by no means do you have to keep it with us, you can take it home if you like, and we'll speak about that in a little bit. But if you do choose to store the precious metals with us, we also own and operate the facility. So we have total control over all aspects of the business. You don't have to deal with any third-party providers. Some of the important elements of our business, one of them being the insurance, obviously. When you're storing precious metals, if you choose to store them with SWP, you want to be sure that your assets not only are physically secure, but if anything were to go wrong, they're fully insured. We hold an insurance policy with Marsh, which is underwritten by Lloyd's of London, and it protects our clients' assets against things like fire, theft, hurricanes, floods, all kinds of physical events that could potentially cause a loss. So it's very important that we hold a robust insurance policy in place. We're also audited from a financial point of view by KPMG once a year, but more importantly, we're audited from a physical standpoint. So each ounce that is stored inside of our secure segregated accounts is audited by Bureau Veritas. If you're not familiar with Bureau Veritas, they are the world's largest commodities auditor. They specialize in all types of different commodities, from grain to oil and gas to precious metals. So they come in once a year and physically count each individual ounce that is stored inside the vault, and then we can give our clients a verified audit statement proving that their holdings that they expect to be there are in fact there. Now, it mentioned in the video that SWP is a non-financial institution, which is actually a very important distinction because it limits the amount of information that we have to share with the local government and also foreign governments. But we are still a regulated business. We're regulated by the Department of Commerce and Investment inside the Cayman Islands. A little bit more about our facility. If you happen to live in Grand Cayman, you've probably driven by this building before. You'll be familiar with it and most likely recognize it. It was completed in 2015. We're very proud that it's both a Category 5 hurricane rated structure, which means it has the highest rating to withstand a tropical storm. Not only that, but it also features a Class 3 vault, which is the strongest or highest rated vault that you can have. So between the building itself, which is the highest rating in terms of strength, you have the Class 3 vault that is domiciled within that building, and the client's assets are then housed within that Class 3 vault. We also have really good neighbors. We occupy the bottom floor of that building, and our neighbors on the second floor are the largest security company in the Cayman Islands, Security Center Limited, who help monitor our cameras and alarms. So they have an extra eye on the business to ensure that everything is running smoothly. We're located only 500 meters, less than about half a kilometer from the international airport, which makes it very easy if clients are coming to the island to visit us, or if we have to collect metals from the airport to be deposited in the facility. And finally, we're about 900 meters from the Central Police Station in case of an emergency. Now, that wraps up the second module. I've given you some information about SWP as a company, and now I'm going to move into the third module of the webinar, which is really focused on the nuts and bolts of completing a transaction. So when you're talking about investing in precious metals, there's really three stages in that life cycle. Stage one is obviously that you're going to be buying the metals. Stage two is you need to consider, where am I going to keep these things? Once I buy a physical metal, am I going to take them home, or am I going to store them at a facility like SWP, or I might consider storing them in a safe deposit box at the bank? We're going to talk about those things. And finally, you'll also have to eventually either sell or transfer those precious metals to someone in order to take out the capital that you invested. So we're going to start off talking about buying precious metals. The first thing you need to do when you're thinking about investing in precious metals is determine the quantity or the value of the investment. So for some people, for example, what they'll do is say, I'm looking to invest 15% of my net worth or my investment portfolio into precious metals. I believe in precious metals. I think it's going to provide a good hedge for my portfolio. And this is the number that I'm going to invest. So that's really the first thing you're going to want to determine. It can either be in the quantity of ounces that you want to buy, or it can be based on a dollar amount that you want to invest. The second thing that you're going to want to do is determine what type of metal or metals are you going to invest in. In some cases, people will strictly invest in only gold or perhaps only silver, but you want to determine that when you come to the table and it's time to make your initial investment. So you can consider a precious metals purchase that really consists of only one metal. You could have a portfolio that's a little bit more balanced, containing both gold and silver. And eventually, I'd actually recommend that you think about adding some platinum group metals, which I haven't mentioned much in today's webinar, but we do have a great video in our YouTube channel dedicated to the platinum group metals. You might want to consider adding those to your precious metals portfolio as well. Once you've determined the quantity and the type of metal you'd like to purchase, you're going to want to determine which products specifically that you want to buy. So you can go to our online store and browse the different products that we offer our clients. There are coins starting at 1 ounce and bars starting at 1 ounce, and that go all the way up to 1,000 ounce formats. So really a variety of different sizes and price points for you to consider. Your next step would be contact SWP for a quote. So once you've made a decision on what you'd like to purchase, give us a call, send us an email, and we will provide you with a quote for an order. The next step there then would be to accept the quote, i.e. lock in your order. So what happens, for example, if you're buying 10 1 ounce gold maple leafs, you would call us up and say, hey, Mark, I'm interested in buying these 10 1 ounce gold maple leafs. What's your price today? I would quote you a live price based on the market price of gold at the time, plus a premium for the products. We would then agree on that price. So regardless of what happens afterwards, whether the market goes up, whether the market goes down, that price that we established together at the time of your order is what we say locked in for both parties. So you will then receive an invoice from SWP for that amount, and then you can settle your purchase by wire, ACH transfer, bank transfer. We also accept Bitcoin as well for payment of precious metal orders. Now, once you've purchased the precious metals, you've got to give some thought, obviously, to where you're going to keep them. And really, the storage or safekeeping of precious metals boils down to 3 options, which I'm going to present to you now and talk through each one of those options. The first option, which I would highly recommend if you're investing in an amount of over $10,000 US, would be vault storage. And this is available through SWP or other companies like SWP. And this metal, your precious metals, would be stored physically inside of the vault operated by SWP. The advantages of vault storage is really that the assets are fully insured. So if anything were to happen, they are insured for their complete replacement value. Being inside the vault also gives you excellent liquidities because you can call up SWP and say, I want to sell those 10 ounces of gold that I have in your vault. And because they're already physically there, we can immediately bid on them and pay you within 2 to 3 business days. Another advantage of the vault storage, aside from the physical security, is also the fact that all of the contents are audited once a year. So again, that proves that your physical products are in fact where they're supposed to be. Another option that's fairly typical is safe deposit box storage. Now, SWP does offer safe deposit box storage at its facility in the Cayman Islands. You also have the option of renting a safe deposit box at a bank, but important to note that safe deposit boxes at banks generally are non-insurable, meaning you cannot insure the contents of what is inside the box, whereas the safe deposit boxes at SWP are insurable. So the insurance is a big, big question, and one of the primary reasons I wouldn't recommend storing your gold or silver in a bank safe deposit box. Now, you've also lost, if you're storing the precious metals at a bank safe deposit box, if it comes time to sell those metals, you're going to have to go retrieve them. So keep that in mind, especially if you've decided to put them in a safe deposit box in a jurisdiction outside of where you live. Because you have the key to get into that box, you're physically going to have to go down there, open the box, retrieve the metals, and then sell them if that's the route that you decide to take. Another disadvantage of safe deposit boxes is that they're not audited. And unfortunately, in the real world, I have heard numerous horror stories over the years of bank safe deposit boxes being drilled, of records being lost, of employees accessing those boxes. And in that case, if there is a loss, unfortunately, you may not know about it for a long time because your contents are not audited, and again, they may not be insured, so you're probably up for a loss. The third option that you have is home storage, which I am a fan of so long as the amount that you're storing in your home is not too high. I think that you have to be careful about how much value you store in your home, primarily because it's not going to be insurable. So it can be very difficult to obtain an insurance policy to cover home storage. Another issue is that you face a situation if you're storing it at home where you've lost some liquidity as well, because once again, you've got to physically move those metals from your home to the point of purchase or sale in this case. So you either have to physically ship them or drive them over to the dealership. That can slow down the process and also add some complication as well, especially if you're shipping the precious metals. And lastly, of course, your home storage is not going to be audited unless you want to pay Bureau Veritas to come in for a personal audit. Now, here are the different price points for vault storage and safe deposit box storage at SWP Cayman. The gold and silver vault storage is based on a percentage of value, and the percentage of value of the holdings, that number decreases as you add volume to your holdings. The safe deposit boxes come in a variety of different sizes. We have 4 different sizes that we offer. The smallest size starts at $500 a year, and the largest box is $1,250 a year. All boxes that we offer include $50,000 worth of insurance. It's important to mention for the vault storage option, the holdings are 100% insured. There is no maximum amount to which they are insured. Now, the home storage is free, but you have to consider the security issues and insurance issues if you are thinking of storing at home. Final stage in the life cycle of making a precious metals investment is, of course, liquidating those metals. Now, if you're not going to sell them, you also have the option to transfer them to children, for example, or someone else in your family. It's a physical commodity and it is considered your personal property, so you really have the free will to do whatever you like with those metals. But if you're going to sell them, the most important thing to know is that you can sell them anytime. Precious metals are extremely liquid. Someone is always willing to make a bid for your precious metals. So don't feel by investing in precious metals that you're now stuck with this lump of gold. You can sell it Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, to a number of dealers around the world, including SWP. So again, a little bit like when you were buying the precious metals, you'll want to determine the quantity or the value you wish to sell. Now, this seems really simple, but it's actually important to give your exit strategy some thought at the time of purchase, because you may want to buy some smaller denominations. For example, simple example, you might want to buy 10 1-ounce gold maple leaf coins versus 1 10-ounce gold bar. And the reason I say that is because when it comes time to sell, if you only wanted to sell half of your gold, You could sell 5 coins, but you can't cut that 10-ounce bar in half and then sell it. You know, you would still be able to sell it, but you would lose some money because you've literally had to cut the thing in half and you've ruined the product essentially. So you want to give some thought to the different products that you're buying. So when it comes time to selling, you can then sell quantities or formats that make most sense for your situation. And of course, we're there to handhold you and guide you through that process, that decision making at the time of your purchase. Secondly, you would contact SWP for an offer. We would let you know what our current purchase prices are. They're also on our website to tell you how much we're currently bidding to buy precious metals back from our clients. You would then accept the offer or lock in the order. Again, same theory as earlier. Once that price is locked in, it is guaranteed for both parties, no matter if the market moves up or down after the order is locked in. You then provide SWP with your banking details for payment, and we'd send you a bank wire within 3 business days. Typically, we send it on the same business day, but there are times when we get a little bit busy and it can take us 2 to 3 days to settle for metal that we've purchased from our clients. Now, the last thing that I wanted to point out here is I'll give you a little bit of information about the price, how the price works, and how premiums work when buying and selling precious metals. So we're going back to that ticker that we had earlier in the webinar. And here you've got the gold and silver bid and ask prices. I've drawn a yellow line between the bid and ask because that's the difference that we're now going to be discussing. So when you're purchasing a physical precious metal product, the basis for your purchase is going to be the spot price plus the premium per ounce. So in this example, the gold spot ask price is $1,740 plus a $50 premium for the product. Your total cost for 1 ounce, or like for example, that 1 ounce gold maple leaf coin in this example would have been $1,790 US. Spot ask plus premium. Now, when it comes time to sell, that's when the bid price comes into play. When it comes time to sell, we're going to use the spot bid price as the basis, and then the discount per ounce. In this example, the spot bid price is $1,733.70. There's a $5 discount on the product. And so we would be paying you, if you turn around and immediately sold the same 1 ounce gold coin to us, $1,728.70. Now the difference between what you paid and what you got back when you sold it is what we call the total spread. So the total spread on 1 ounce of gold in this example is $61.50, or about 3.5%, which is a realistic expectation when buying or selling a physical product. Some premiums, or some total spreads I should say, are going to be lower, especially when you're buying larger volumes than 1 ounce, and some can be higher. In the case of silver, for example, total spreads can be closer to 10%. That wraps up today's webinar. I've listed here our contact details, including our website, which is very comprehensive, a lot of good information there for you to learn more about our products and services or investing in precious metals. Obviously, our contact details. I really, again, recommend that you consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. It's a great tool if you're trying to learn about precious metals. And of course, you can always follow us on Twitter. We do post daily updates, what's happening inside the precious metals market, what is the price doing. So that's a good feed for some quick information on a daily basis. Again, I'd like to thank you for joining us today. I hope that you found the webinar educational and helpful. If there are 2 thoughts that I can leave you with before we part ways, number 1 would be the timing of this opportunity. Because of everything that's happened with COVID and the fragility of the global economy right now, I sincerely believe it's an important time to consider adding precious metals to a well-balanced portfolio. I think that you'll benefit financially and sleep easier at night knowing that you have a proven hedge against potential losses in some other asset classes. And secondly, I hope that this webinar has demonstrated how easy it can be to buy and own precious metals. And of course, if you have any questions or you're interested in opening an account, please feel free to reach out to us at SWP. We look forward to working with you. So that's it for me. I'm going to hang out now inside of the YouTube chat here. So if you have any questions or you want to exchange information, feel free to use the chat, and I will hang around so long as there are people in the room still asking questions. Thank you and take care.